Chapter 1: Rain on the Windows. The rain had been falling for 3 days straight in Lorchville, a town most maps didn't bother to name anymore. It drizzled down old brick buildings and crooked lampposts, washing away the color of everything, as if nature itself was trying to erase this forgotten corner of the world. Detective Alexander Crowley sat by the window of his one-bedroom apartment above Doyle's bar, watching drops collect like tiny soldiers on the glass. It was 11:47 p.m. when the knock came. Not loud, not urgent, just a single, tired sound. He didn't answer right away. Nobody came to his door this late unless something had gone terribly wrong. When he opened the door, she stood there, soaked from head to toe, mascara running like shadows across her cheeks. Long black coat, red scarf, and eyes that held something more dangerous than grief. "Detective Crowley?" she asked. "I'm not anymore," he replied, stepping aside anyway. "But come in before the rain takes your bones." She hesitated, then entered like someone crossing into a confessional. "My name is Violet Lang. My sister, Clara. She's missing." Crowley blinked once, then turned to the sideboard where he poured 2 glasses of bourbon. He handed her one. "She's not just missing," Violet said, her voice cracking. "She's been gone for 6 days. The police think she ran away, but she didn't. I know it. And there's something else." She pulled a small velvet pouch from her coat. Inside was an antique key, bronze, engraved with strange swirling symbols, older than English. Crowley stared at it for a long moment. "She left this in my mailbox," Violet whispered. "No note, just this." Crowley took the key with practiced hands. It was cold, unnaturally so. His eyes narrowed. "I've seen symbols like this before. A long time ago." "Where?" "In the Kellerman case. 1998. A locked room in the basement of the old Lambert Asylum. They said it was witchcraft, that it was nonsense. But now I'm not so sure." Violet leaned forward. "You don't believe in coincidences, do you?" Crowley shook his head slowly. "No. I believe in patterns." Crowley approached, pulling out a flashlight. The beam hit the surface, and instead of bouncing back, it vanished. Violet stepped forward, entranced. "That's not glass." "No," Crowley said quietly. "That's obsidian. Volcanic mirror. Ritual grade. Used in certain ceremonies." He pressed his hand to the surface. The air changed. For a moment he saw something. A face. A girl with blonde hair and dark eyes staring back at him. Not his reflection. Someone else. "Clara?" Violet gasped. Then darkness. The mirror cracked. Chapter 4: The Circle. They ran. Not from something chasing them, but from the realization that something had looked back. Outside, Crowley lit a cigarette with trembling fingers. "This isn't just about a missing girl. Someone's trying to open something, and they're using Clara to do it." Violet pulled out an old journal from Clara's nightstand. Inside were pages of drawings, circles, eyes, symbols, runes, Latin phrases like "Aperire limen tenebris," "Open the threshold of darkness." She was studying something, Violet murmured. Obsession. Maybe trying to stop something, or bring it forth. They looked at the circled locations again. One stood out now, the Kellerman crypt. Abandoned, forgotten, closed after the Lambert Asylum shut down. But beneath it, something deeper. Crowley nodded. "If we want to find Clara, we need to go underground." Chapter 5: The Crypt Beneath. The Kellerman crypt sat behind the abandoned Lambert Asylum, overgrown and silent. Time had all but erased the path that led to it, except for those who still remembered or who had reasons to return. Crowley and Violet walked through the mist, stepping over collapsed gravestones and broken angel statues. The crypt entrance was almost hidden by ivy and rotted branches. Crowley pulled the growth aside and shone a flashlight down the stone stairs. The air that wafted up was still, not musty or moldy, but cold, like something below had never stopped breathing. They descended in silence. At the bottom, a rusted iron door, chained shut. Crowley bent to examine the lock, then pulled something from his coat. The strange bronze key Clara had left in Violet's mailbox. fit. When he turned it, the lock clicked open like it had been waiting for him all along. Inside, the crypt was larger than expected, more like a catacomb than a burial chamber. The walls were covered in carvings, not names or dates, but symbols, repeating circles, geometric lines, crescents intersected with eyes. "What is this?" Violet whispered, shining her light across the far wall. Crowley stepped closer. "It's not just a crypt. It's a sanctuary. For a cult." "Clara's drawings," Violet said. "They match these exactly." Then they found it. An altar of black stone, at the center of the room. Carved into its surface was a name. Clara L. Violet's breath caught. She was here. She was part of it. But Crowley was already scanning the walls. Or she was trying to stop them. Behind the altar was a small alcove, and inside it a book, bound in what looked disturbingly like skin, sealed with twine. The cover had no title, only the same symbol that was on the key. Crowley opened it, hesitating just long enough to know he shouldn't. Chapter 7, The Club of the Veil. Back in Lorchville, the silence felt thicker. Crowley placed the book carefully on his kitchen table, laying it open beside the notes they had made from the crypt. Violet sat across from him, staring at the wall, pale and still. "You know what this means, don't you?" Crowley asked quietly. "She's alive," Violet whispered. "But not here. She's somewhere between." They dug into the town's archives the next morning. In an old edition of the Lorchville Gazette, dated October 31st, 1972, they found a single line buried beneath news about a harvest festival. Anonymous sources claim a cult activity in the tunnel network beneath the town, connected to a secret group calling themselves the Club of the Veil. Crowley circled the line. "I've heard of them," he muttered. "Back when I worked in New Orleans. Similar name. They believe death is a hallway, not an end." "And the ninth door?" Violet asked. "Would be the last hallway, the ultimate crossing." The newspaper mentioned the entrance to the tunnels. An old service elevator behind the Lorchville post office. The elevator had been welded shut after a homeless man was found dead beside it in 1986. Face twisted in horror, hands burned black. They found it that night. A rusted metal gate with yellow tape long since shredded by wind. Crowley used a crowbar. It screeched like a dying animal as he pulled it open. Below, the shaft dropped into blackness. "Are you sure?" Violet asked. "No," he said and stepped inside. Chapter 8, Beneath the Town. The elevator didn't work. They climbed down the maintenance ladder, 30 rungs deep. The air grew thick and heavy. When they reached the bottom, it was like standing in a different city. The tunnels were wide, old storm drains converted into something more. Candles had once lined the walls. Now only wax stains and black soot remained. But further in, there were signs of life. Fresh footprints. Symbols chalked onto the stone, the same as those from the crypt. They followed the trail until the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. At the center stood a circle of chairs, facing inward. 9 in total. One was knocked over. And at the center, a mirror. Not obsidian this time, but glass. Cracked. Blood-smeared. Violet stepped closer, trembling. "I recognize this place." Crowley turned to her. "How?" "I dreamed it. Weeks ago. Before Clara vanished." Dreams. Visions. Premonitions. Crowley knew the signs. He had seen them before, in victims who had crossed paths with cults or things older than reason. It was part trauma, part psychic resonance, the mind trying to protect itself while warning others. Then they heard it. A whisper. Not loud. Not clear. But close. From the mirror. Crowley raised his gun. "Stay back." But Violet was already moving, entranced. She stood in front of the mirror, staring into its cracked surface. Then she whispered one word. "Clara." The mirror blinked. Not shattered. Not moved. It blinked. And from within, something began to push outward. Fingers, white and thin, pressed against the other side of the glass. Crowley pulled Violet away just as the mirror exploded outward, shards flying in all directions. A scream filled the chamber. Not from Violet, and not from him. A scream from nowhere and everywhere. When silence returned, they were both bleeding from dozens of cuts, but alive. The mirror lay in pieces, and so did the figure that had tried to emerge. A body, human, female, but not Clara, someone else. Dead. Chapter 9: The House on Black Hollow Road. 2 days later, Violet received an envelope. No return address, just her name. Inside, a photograph, grainy, black and white. 9 people in ceremonial robes, all masked, all standing in front of a familiar place. A mansion, tall, overgrown, collapsing, on Black Hollow Road, west of the old train yard. Handwritten on the back of the photo, "Come alone. Bring the book. Bring the mirror piece." Violet showed it to Crowley, who immediately recognized one detail in the background: the roof crest. It matched the crest carved into the altar in the crypt. "It's not just a gathering," he said. "It's the source." That night, they drove through the storm, winding roads and unlit intersections swallowing them whole. At the gates of the estate, the rain stopped, just like that, as if the land beyond rejected weather. Inside, the house was still, yet every step echoed like thunder. At the base of a broken staircase stood a man in a dark coat. His mask, porcelain, plain, featureless. His voice, familiar. "Welcome, detective." "And Violet. She's been waiting for you." "Who?" Violet asked. "Your sister." Crowley raised his gun. "Where is she?" The man stepped aside, revealing an open parlor. Candles burned in a perfect circle. Symbols scorched into the wood. And there, in the center, Clara. Eyes open, hovering, not breathing, not dead. Chapter 10: The Ninth Door. They had prepared the ritual. Clara had been chosen to enter, to walk through all 9 levels of the mind, to unlock the soul's passage into the place beyond thought, beyond death. But something went wrong, or maybe exactly right. "She crossed," said the masked man, "but refused to return." Violet cried out, running to her sister. Her hands passed through Clara's body like mist. She turned to Crowley, desperate. "She's stuck. Between. Then we pull her back." He stepped into the circle and opened the book. The symbols inside glowed red. The room dimmed. "You don't understand," the man said. "There's no door left. Only you. Only one of you can bring her back, and only if you take her place." Violet turned to him. "What?" "One soul in, one soul out. That is the law of the 9th door." Silence. Crowley looked at Clara. Suspended in space, her mouth slightly parted, her skin pale and glowing. Then he looked at Violet. "I'm going." "No. She's your sister. But I'm already halfway gone." He stepped forward, placed his hand on Clara's. And everything went white. Epilogue: Rain again. Lorchville woke to thunder. In the hospital, Violet sat beside her sister, now alive, breathing. Her first words, "Where is he?" Violet only cried. The mirror had been shattered. The book, burned. But somewhere, in the space between dreams, a man walks down an endless hallway of doors, each one marked with a symbol. Behind the 9th, silence. And a whisper, "I'll keep watch." The end.